Good evening. Welcome to ChoicesPodcastOfficial.com. We are Choices Podcast, and we're all about helping you make better choices in your professional, business, and personal part of your life. We are a weekly show at 7 o'clock every Tuesday. We are expanding. We are now on Instagram. We're on Facebook group at Choices Podcast. We ask that you go on Choices Podcast, and in the comments section, you can ask questions during our show. Tonight's topic is perseverance, and my co-hosts and great buddies, Carcass John and Reverend Denny Brewer, we're going to be discussing perseverance. Before we get started, Carcass John would like to tell you his song lyrics for the evening.
All right. Well, when you talked about our topic tonight, you said perseverance. So I actually know a song that's called Perseverance, and it's by an unlikely source. And despite the name of the band, which is Hatebreed, they promote a very positive message. And one of their songs, one of their albums is called Perseverance, and this is the title track. And the opening line is, "I know your fear of loss and your struggles with faith, and how it takes everything that you have to face the day. The virtues you possess now bring eternal pain. All you have is contempt for life, for a life you can't obtain. All of your heroes have failed you, but yet you try to prevail. Face your torment and dismantle your doubt. Refuse this legacy of shame and deceit, because the only real truth in your life that you know is hostility." And it says your world is coming apart, but remain steadfast. And it says, "O perseverance against all opposition, crushing all limitations, pure strength through solitude, discipline and determination." So I thought, wow, that's a heavy, that's not the soft pedaled version. It's not like a Fleetwood Mac song that's very pretty, but it speaks the truth. And I think that we all feel that way, where we feel like the world is kind of crushing us, whether we allow it or not. It's still there. But sometimes we just have to power through it. And I guess tonight we're going to talk about what kind of choices we can make in order to power through and persevere through adversity or whatever it is. What do you think?
I like that word you use, steadfast.
Yeah.
How about you, Reverend?
I love that word. Steadfast.
Steadfast.
Solid.
Unwavering.
Yep.
You know, one of the best books ever written was by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point. I'm rereading it. But he talks about small changes making a big difference. And you never know what's going to take. Like the hush puppies. Remember those hush puppies that we used to wear? And
oh, yeah.
They were fixing to go out of business. And all of a sudden, the right guy wore them, and they were cool. And so everybody was buying hush puppies. So I'm hearing steadfast means small changes will make a big difference.
You know, Brett, I'm reminded of something that we were talking about my daughter prior to this, and you know she's a big fitness person, and I remember there were times where just from a physical fitness standpoint, I would get stuck, or there would be like I couldn't get past a certain point, and someone mentioned to me He said, I watched you grip the bar on the bench. And have you ever tried putting your thumbs under the bar instead of gripping the bar like over the top? And I said, well, that seems like such a minor thing. And it increased by moving my thumbs from a position like this to a position like this where the bar rested in my hand rather than I was gripping the bar. My strength went up by 15% just by that minor adjustment. And so you can't rule anything out. And sometimes it even sounds a little absurd, like the old hands as hooks idea. But I think that we should be open to that, especially if we're struggling. And if a friend points it out to us, I think that we ought to. I think we need people like that around us. What do you think about that too?
I like it. How about you, Reverend?
Yeah, well, again, it goes back to the right day, right? Having the people in our lives that influence us, that encourage us, in the right way, in the right direction.
You know what? I don't think people are as far off of living a champion life as they think they are. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, I'm broke. Oh, I'm down. Oh, I don't have a say. You know, but I think that they're headed the right way. It's just some small changes. If they do some things like goal setting or, you know, really doing some small things to tweak their form. We had a guest on one time a few weeks ago was talking about that. The lady, she's multimillionaire now. She went from scrubbing toilets to having her own maintenance business. I mean, that's really, really successful. But she was talking about the little changes made every day. If you can make a little change, you'll go a long way. And for me, it's like I'm trying to do little things like add a little bit more detail to my work, you know, just a little bit, not craziness, but just adding a little bit more detail in my thought and my communication to my people and whatever I'm telling them to do or whatever. I think that just the little changes. And you know what else I've started doing, Reverend, in Carcass?
Tell me.
I talked about this at Rebuild My Life when I was in Virginia Beach. I did the show by myself. You were off fishing, Reverend, and Carcass was off.
On my honeymoon?
Yeah, you're on a ship somewhere with a bunch of metal dudes.
It was awesome. Let me tell you, it was awesome.
Oh, I bet. I was so happy you took a break. But I got a client, his name's Chris. He's awesome. And he's a lawyer. And he was telling me, he goes, mediation has made all the difference in my life. So I got the Calm app. You know, it's called Calm. And it's got Jeff Warren. He talks about how do you meditate. He starts you out, you know, close your eyes, whatever. And, you know, you look at the back of your eyelids, whatever, going slow. Well, I started meditating a little bit different. I like really sit there and really picture like any anger or whatever I have, any frustration, going out the ends of my finger and going out the ends of my feet and getting out of my body. And I do that for maybe 3 minutes, you know, and I'm finding that during the day, I'm really calm, you know.
That's good, Brett.
I'm pretty high strung dude. I pray a lot, but
so that's the understatement of the podcast has never spoken more truth than that, right? That statement right there.
But really, I went to lunch with a friend of mine today. He's very successful, owns a bunch of sober living homes. And he was upset because one of the guys he wanted me to meet canceled this morning. And he's like, dude, that's so weak to cancel on the morning of lunch. And I'm like, he wasn't supposed to be here, dude. Just me and you. I'm enjoying you. I want to hear how good you were doing. I want to tell you how proud I am of you, you know? And you don't need to get all wired up. wanting to bring him here for me to meet him, I don't care. You know, I'd usually jump on the bandwagon, oh, that no good rotten SOB, or something like that. But I'm trying to really just let it flow, see what happens. What do y'all think?
I work in a place where they only see what goes wrong, not what necessarily goes right. And so I was reminded of a statement that somebody made that it says, if you think someone is perfect, you don't know them well enough. And I started
true.
I started to apply that to my own self, because I at one point I was thinking, well, I'm doing things really well, and I didn't really delve into what I was not doing really well, because I thought I was doing really well. And so I powered through my own ego to find some things that I could improve on. And so all that being said is that sometimes things happen for a reason. And that might sound trite or trivial, but I just had this conversation with one of Steph's kids on our long ride back from the airport. And I just said, I was thinking about, I have no regrets. And I was thinking about other decisions I could have made in my life. And some of my life was really tough, and I had to power through it. And I'm glad I did, because it got me to this point. And had I taken a different course of action, then I wouldn't be having that conversation with that person. I wouldn't be in that place. So to your point, Brett, sometimes it's better. Things happen that way. Just, not everybody comes through in the clutch. Not everybody has a great day, and that's all right.
Hey, Carcass, you got your notes from Tune Up last week?
I sure do, right here.
What was she saying about answered prayer, that God is preparing you for what it is that you're going through right
Let's see.
now? I loved what she said.
Yeah, she's the one that said an eye for an eye means we'll all be blind if we're not careful.
That's good.
Let's see. Don't get stuck in your pain.
Yeah.
It's good.
You affirm you. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. Resistance creates strength. Yeah, she said something that a prayer. Man, what was that? And I was so mesmerized by it, I guess I didn't write it down.
She used the word hope instead of prayer, not to offend anybody. And then I was like, no, you need to put prayer in there. God is answering or giving you hope by putting exactly what you're going through in your life to prepare you for what you're fixing to get.
Yeah, she said when you're traveling through adversity, don't ask yourself, why is this happening to me? But rather, why is this happening for me?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good.
That was avoiding victimhood. And one of the things that I wrote down, because I see this, and as I mentioned prior to the show, I've had some coworkers just with their face in their hands about some of their family members reacting to our recent political strife, if you want to call it that. But it says, how long do you want to stay in this sad story, and when do you want to rewrite it? And I just thought we can wallow in the mire, as my dad used to say all the time, or we can power out of it. We can put it in a 4-wheel drive and get out of there and get unstuck. I've
been reading a lot where some really successful people are saying it's not about the money, and it's not. It's about the way you live your life. And I had to wait till 66 for that light to come on. When people are really living their life to make money, there's a lot of dead bodies in the way.
Well, they call it, my dad used to call that body walkers. And I said, what do you mean by that? And they said they'll walk on any body to get to where they want to go. Yeah. And that leaves a lot of, like you said, bodies in the wake of their destruction. I used to make a ton of money too. I mean, a lot of money, but I never saw my family.
Yeah.
I never had a life. It was all about money, 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 money.
Carcass and Reverend, I used to partner with a guy that was great, but he was a people eater. I'd tell him that, dude, you're a people eater. You know, I love you to death, but you are a people eater. And he'd have his piece of paper in his front pocket. And he always had the things he wanted me to do running the business, right? And he'd be going down that list, and I'd stop him. I said, dude, did you just pull that piece of paper out of your pocket? Well, you can take that piece of paper and wad it up and throw it in the trash, because I'm not going to listen to any of it. I don't work that way, man. Yeah. But I hope people are getting that kind of freedom, where they're fine with the way they're living their life and they find out who they are.
Yeah. Well, and we're all going to go through adversity. Is going to happen. I don't care who you are, how good of a person you are. You're going to go through adversity. And this idea of perseverance, I mean, it's pretty huge. It's talked about in our Bible quite a bit,
Yeah.
and it builds character. It's actually, the Bible actually tells us, hey, when you go through a trial, be joyful about it, because if you stick with it, you're going to come through and be a better person at the end of the road. And that's kind of a hard thing, to really grasp, I think, and to actually say, hey, I want to go through a trial. Because I don't know about y'all, but I kind of think, man, I've been through my fair share. Hopefully I've learned all my lessons, but at this stage of life, no, I'm going to go through some more adversity. I am.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think you beg for a trial, but you prepare yourself for it.
Right.
And you got to know that it's going to happen, because the world is not perfect, and neither are we. And but resistance creates strength. And I think I told the story of my workout partner that said, I want you to bench X amount of pounds. And I said, holy cow, that's way too much. And he said, but I'm going to put it in your hands, and I want you to feel what it feels like, whether you can do it or not. He said, I want you to feel what 440 pounds feels like. And sure enough, he did it. And he helped me lower the weight. He helped me crank the weight up. And it at least gave my physical body and my mind the idea of what it would take to push that weight. And so I was glad for the adversity. Did I bench press 440 pounds? No. However, now that goal, I held it in my hand at one time. So there was no reason why I couldn't work my way to that point. But that's the other thing about persevering. I think that we just get through the door and then we're home free. But we still got to, do other things on top of it. I think it's like commitment to anything. Okay, I found the woman of my dreams. I'm done. No, not necessarily. You still have to wine and dine that woman. You still have to treat her with dignity, and you have to have a balance. But
Carcass, love is action.
Of course,
loving someone's action.
Yeah,
I've heard it said to you. So Carcass, you're newlywed. You don't hang your jersey up from the rafters now, right? I mean, it's not like the game's over.
No, not at all.
And you keep doing what you did to get her, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you should.
Well, right? and I think it comes to,
or at least to some extent.
Right, and we have to have a right.
That's what I like. Oh, Reverend, hey, you got to remember, Carcass, we're from Irving. Right. There's gonna be a part of us that's like, it ain't gonna move.
Right.
As much as you try to move it, it ain't gonna move.
Right.
But moderation in all things, and I think it's important to have a careful balance, and for a relationship, since we're talking about it, not to get too lopsided, because I've been in those too. Where I just do and do and do and do and do, and then all of a sudden, my container is empty, and I have nothing left to give, and then they're disappointed because I don't keep giving. But want something that that our guest said, read your own bio, and how does it read? Are we a person that perseveres to the end? Do we give up before we get to the finish line?
Well,
I mean,
Carcass,
so many times you see people, and I'm sure I've done it in my life. I don't like to think about it, but where quit on some things right as you were getting to that breakthrough point, and that's something we don't want to do, because you work through that breaking point, things are a little better. You go to a little higher level in life.
Well, the thing that you're saying now is that even though you've quote unquote failed at that moment, you have a recollection that you got to that point and you probably should have pushed through. Now you
Yep.
can revert back to it and push through because
that's
you
called
learned.
that's
You
called
learned.
wisdom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
experience. I
once again,
don't want to be that dead body or that body flat on the road again, like the
No.
road runner. I don't want to go there. I think
Hey,
that we learn.
yeah, excuse me, Brett.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead, bro.
Reverend. No, go ahead.
I was gonna lay one on you here.
All right, go.
So if I can,
Yeah, preach,
so
Reverend. Preach.
this is out of the good book. This is James chapter 1 verse 2. If I can just read this to you. Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be what? Mature and complete, not lacking anything.
Oh, that didn't talk about money either, does it?
No, man.
not one.
I wonder what the not lacking anything is.
I think that means you're doing the right stuff in life. I mean, and I think that is wisdom, and I think that's living life.
Your heart's full.
Yeah.
Your heart's full.
Yeah.
God's blessed you, and you feel that your heart's full. Hey,
And
Reverend.
that's a great word. That's a great word, right? I mean, so when we go through these difficulties, and I believe this,
I do too.
You hold on to the fact that if you power through, Carcass, if you stay steadfast, if you make that steady effort to work through it, you're going to come out better. You're going to come out more whole.
It's our reward for earning it.
Yeah.
I think that anything that comes easy isn't quite as precious, and I think the things that we really have to work for or work on, no different than, like, say, an education. I worked my tail off to try, and I didn't take advantage, shall we say. I knew how to ski really well, but I didn't go to class, and I suffered for it, and I worked really, really, really hard to get through the last several semesters of school. So, and it felt good because it was all on me anyway, because I was paying for my own school. And by the way, Brett, I did find the quote. It says, "Life is happening to give you what you've asked for."
Yes. And life is happening to get you what you prayed for.
Right. And she changed it
happening to get you what you prayed for.
Right. So that, once again, Rev, I think that's the case where we're actually earning it, and it feels more rewarding, and it's more precious to us because we put in the work.
And you said it earlier, Carcass. Anything that's really worth going after requires some sacrifice.
Of course.
If you think about it, if you analyze, your life, those things that were really good, those things that were great, you had to make some sacrifice for.
And you know what?
Your family, your kids.
Sure. And once again, I have no regrets about. I mean, could I have done things differently? Sure. Could I have done things better? Maybe. But as far as looking back on my life to get me to this point, I have zero regrets. I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be as a person, spiritually, mentally, maybe not so much physically, but I'm working on that again. And but once again, that requires effort and perseverance. And the hardest thing to do in working out is not going to the gym, it's going back to the gym.
So let me
So
ask you this. When do you think people regret their past?
when they haven't dealt with their past.
Yeah.
Well,
And they
that's
haven't
good.
learned from it.
People
haven't grown
cannot
from
hang.
it.
You cannot hang. You cannot change or heal what you do not acknowledge.
Right. But
Yeah.
one thing about the past is there is not a hill of beans of things you can do for it. It is perfect. It cannot be changed. It cannot be adjusted. It can only be learned from. And if there are things in your past that require you to address somebody personally, I mean, part of that remorse is earning or garnering some humility and trying to recompense for that wrongdoing or that mistake or whatever. And if it involves other people, it's sometimes even harder than when it involves yourself. I've gotten to the point where I can forgive myself a lot easier than I can forgive others because I can control me,
I
but I
think it
can't control
goes.
anyone else.
I think it goes back to what I've always said: secrets kill people.
Yeah.
And if you're approaching 40, 50, 60, and you're watching our show and you have regrets, I'm just asking you to communicate with somebody that you trust and tell them what the regret is. Open it up, pop the blister,
And
and get it
don't
out there.
waste the next 10 years, 15 years of
No,
your life.
wondering how to fix the pain that you have.
Yeah.
You know, the pain, that's what we say in the recovery world. The pain has to outweigh treatment before somebody gets help.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to go that far. You know, people, if you're listening to us and you have a secret or you have something that you need to discuss, reach out to somebody, your preacher or friend or somebody, and start talking about it. Talking
You
helps.
can't wallow in it. You
You can't
cannot
wallow
wallow
in
in
it.
it. You
You
got
got
to
to
get
talk
out
about it.
and you got to clean yourself off and you've got to move on. And
Yeah.
you can't if you're just sitting in the soup. And,
Yeah.
and
Listen, if you're angry at something you did, if you hit your kids and you're angry at yourself for hitting your kid, take a baseball bat, go in the backyard and wallop a tree until you get it all out of your body. That works. Get the anger out of your body, get the fear out of your body, get the guilt out of your body so that you can live a free life. It's it's it's
Good.
fixable. Whatever's
Yeah.
happened to you is fixable. You know? Denny, your friend, I don't want to mention his name, but your friend that went through the trials and tribulations of a murder case, he changed his heart, you
Yeah,
know?
he did. Yeah, absolutely, he did. And
Mm,
and he still, I think he still deals with the fact that the person he killed has relatives and loved ones out there that probably hadn't forgiven him.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, after that heinous act, all he could do was 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 use it in a positive way, and that sounds strange to put it that way. I mean,
No,
how could a murder, how could taking somebody's life be positive? I mean, it really isn't. But he used it to go out and reach, hundreds of people, hundreds of men in prison, and over time, thousands of people. He really, he was used to reach and touch and change for the better a lot of lives.
yeah, that's awesome. That's taking the worst thing that's happened to you and turn it into the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how we practice law, Denny.
Oh yeah.
We try to take the worst thing and help them turn it into the best.
Absolutely. And there's Brett, I think you feel this way. I mean, I've always felt like there wasn't any situation I could not resolve. Now maybe it wasn't going to come out perfect, but you know, we can take this situation oh, we can work through it. We can come. There's a solution. There's a way out of this.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of times where, at night I'd finally hit the sack. I'm like, man, I hadn't quite figured this out, and get up the next morning fresh.
Yeah, me too.
I
still do that.
got it figured out.
Yeah.
Well, and here's another thing, guys. I just turned the page in my notes, and this thing hit me like a ton of bricks. Sometimes you have to relieve yourself of yourself. We don't have to do this alone.
Right.
Now, we don't want to project this on everybody else around us, and then they're miserable too. But I think that we know who we can confide in, and that can at least listen, help us get it out of our system, like Brett suggests. We're not necessarily we're beating the tree with a baseball bat, but we are popping the blister and at least getting that conversation out there. And then now we've got someone that can that we can be accountable to.
Mhm.
Any fitness goals, any dietary goals, any things like that. It's always helpful to post your goals where people can see it and be accountable to somebody else. And then, Brett, I think what you were reaching for on one of those comments was change happens when the pain becomes greater than the fear.
Yes. Pain happens. Pain has to be greater than the fear.
Yep.
Yeah.
And,
That's good.
And so, but once again, sometimes we have to get out of our own way. And we had talked about this, about being grateful and being gracious. Sometimes I know all three of us probably have a little bit of a tough time accepting the grace of others because we're used to doing.
What's that mean, Carcass? Accepting the grace of others. Big words for Carcass.
No, I've been sitting on a boat with no TV, no internet, no phone, and it's given me a chance to think and to stare out into the abyss a little bit. And I think that we sometimes are so focused on helping others that when we need help, we don't handle it very well.
Oh, you're gonna enjoy being married to somebody who you trust and who you love.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that right?
I can't tell you,
Denny?
even as a newbie, she is an amazing person, and I think maybe the idea because she's a nurse, those people really put it out there on the line.
Yeah, they do.
And it's reflected in our relationship. I've never felt as balanced in a relationship as this, and I hope that it lasts. I think that it will, because we'll
sure will.
Oh, man.
So I'll ask Denny all the time, Denny, what's Sude say? And then I know I'm getting an honest answer.
Yeah, well, the same thing for Sanka.
Yeah, then he goes, hey, Brett, what's Sanka say? Then he knows he's getting an honest answer, but that's
and
where
you know the old saying, behind every great man is a great woman. And you could switch that. It is so true. I mean, when I think of the guys I know that are really great individuals. Oh, they have great wives.
Yeah.
And man, it's a godsend. But it's about, again, it goes back to having the right people of influence in your life, and prayerfully, I mean, that's your spouse. For those of us who are married, and for those of us who aren't married, prayerfully you find somebody, you have somebody in your life that you can bounce ideas off of, and you can go to and be totally frank and open and get their input. But it's huge.
Have a cup of coffee with somebody.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm still doing that little thing that you suggested where you just send out a random text and
that's cool.
Say, hey man, how's it going? I was thinking about you the other day, and I just thought I'd send you a text.
I fell off the wagon.
I gotta get back into it too. I remember Irv. Irv did that when he called me. Didn't y'all love Irv? He's so awesome.
He was great.
Yeah. And the very next morning, I sent a text to somebody following up on that, and man, I got the warmest response to that. Man, it's so good to hear from you. I hadn't heard from you, and it's a fun thing to do. It's a good thing to do.
So what can we leave our listeners with tonight on perseverance? It's slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. It's steadfast, right? I love,
Steadfast
great
is the
word.
word. Slow and steady. That's why they call me Donkey. A lot of people call me Donkey. Slow and steady
Yeah.
Or is it
wins
some
the
version
race.
of that? I'm sorry.
What?
You know what? I'm thinking about this quote right here,
Okay.
and I think this will sum it up for us. Maybe if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done, and I think that is the art of powering through it or persevering.
Yeah. You got to get out of the box.
Yeah.
My
And I think a
mother-in-law
lot of us,
was awesome.
well, a lot of us allow fear to keep us from rocking steady, from being steadfast. It holds us back. You've heard the acronym for fear being false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
False evidence appearing real. You think about that. That is so true. It is so true. I mean, how many times have you been fearful of something? And if you stepped out and you look back and you go, why was I fearful of that? It's usually an illusion. It keeps us from doing what we should be doing.
I think the small things got to come out of the box too. You got to get out of the box and you got to look and you got to be honest with what's going on. You got to say, hey, let me get out of here and let me look at myself from the outside looking in. And I think the best effective listeners win the race too, because they're not sitting there running their mouth. They're sitting there listening to everybody. I remember a lawyer told me one time, yeah, man, we had him work at our firm. Uh-huh. He wanted this big new desk. We got it for him. He wanted this and we wanted that. And after 2 weeks, partner came in and had a partners meeting. He said, hey, do y'all think that this is going the way it's supposed to be going? And we all said no. He goes, I'll be right back. And he went and fired the guy. You know?
You're right.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah. No doubt.
You know? I want to read our quote today, okay? Our quote is a poem that I've always loved. I used to have it framed in my office. It's called Don't Quit. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. And many a fellow turns about what he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up, though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to a faint and faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup. And he learned too late when the night came down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint, the clouds of doubt. And when you never can tell how close you are, it may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seems worst, you must not quit. I love that.
Man, that's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
It's
Says
just
it
little.
all.
It's little. Stay with it. It's just the little icebreaker that you're going to do to kick its ass and win.
And so many times you're right at that point, you don't know it.
You don't know it.
Is that author pointed out?
Yeah, you're at the tip of the bird, man. Hang in there. Well, God bless you guys. I love y'all. And I've enjoyed our roundtable tonight. And we'll pick out who I guess that we want. We got a list of 30 people trying to get on our show, but I like our roundtable nights. I think we get a lot done.
I agree.
Enjoyed it.
All right.
Yep, appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you. Y'all have a great night.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
All right.
All right. Bye.